Thank you, Priel, and thank you to EC Council. It's been a pleasure to work with this organization. Greetings. I want to thank everyone for joining in today. A quick word about my background, and then we'll jump right into the substance of today. I'm a healthcare privacy leader and governance professional, and I have spent more than 17 years at the intersection of privacy law, regulatory compliance, and emerging technology, specifically in healthcare. I hold a law degree from Florida Coastal School of Law, an MBA in healthcare administration from Texas Women's University, and I'm certified in healthcare privacy and security through a HIPAA, and I'm also a Scrum Master. And my role as Director of Privacy and AI Governance Consulting at AgileShare Group is where I work with healthcare organizations on privacy governance, AI governance, and regulatory compliance. And I've built 4 enterprise privacy compliance programs, and I've pioneered the first medical device security program in the United States. That was at Texas Health Resources, which puts me squarely at the intersection of HIPAA, FDA regulation, and AI governance, and that we're going to be discussing today. And I've also published 2 white papers that you can find on my LinkedIn profile. And one was on privacy governance model, and the other is enterprise AI governance beyond the traditional AI models. Now, let's get into why you're joining today. Next slide, please. AI is already making clinical decisions, but before we talk about governance, we have to agree on our scope here today. So I want to start with a number, 1,451. Keep that number in your head. That is the number of AI machine learning enabled medical devices the FDA authorized through the end of 2025. And those 295 were clearly in 2025 alone. These are not prototype devices sitting in a research lab. These are authorized, deployed, commercially operating AI systems, making or influencing clinical decisions in hospitals and health systems across the country right now. And when I say clinical decisions, I mean that in a very concrete sense, clinical decisions are being made, actually telling doctors what that machine thinks is the best option. Diagnostic imaging, roughly 76% of all FDA authorized AI devices are radiology tools. They're reading scans, mammograms, chest x-rays, ophthalmology images, making calls that directly influence what a physician recommends to a patient. Clinical decision support embedded inside EHR workflows at the point of care. Real-time alerts, drug interaction warnings, sepsis prediction scores. Clinicians are seeing these recommendations in the moment while the patient is at the front of them. Ambient documentation. AI is now structuring clinical encounters with direct human input. It is deciding what goes into legal medical record based on an audio stream. Think about what that means for accuracy, accountability, and legal exposure. AI-enabled medical devices, software as a medical device, or SAMD, submitted and cleared through FDA pathways, including 510K, De Novo, and PMA. And predictive analytics, risk satisfactions for readmissions, deterioration, resource allocation. AI is guiding how health systems distribute care. So here is the accountability question for you today. I want you to sit with this throughout this talk. If an AI recommendation contributes to patient harm, who is accountable? The clinician who acted on it, the vendor who built it, the health system that deployed it, the algorithm itself? That question is not rhetorical. It is the governance problem we are here to solve. Next slide, please. The regulatory environment governing AI in healthcare has changed substantially over the last 5 years. And I want to walk you through the key milestones because understanding the trajectory matters as much as knowing where we are today. We start with GMLP, a good machine learning practice guiding principles, published jointly by the FDA, Health Canada, and UK MHRA in October 2021, and reaffirmed by the International Medical Device Regulatory Forum in January 2025. 10 principles establishing the foundation expectations for safe, effective AI and ML medical device development across the total product lifecycle. We'll spend some time on these specifically. In June 2024, FDA issued its transparency guidance for ML-enabled medical devices. This is where the regulatory framework gets specific about what transparency actually means. Not as a value, but as a structural requirement. Organizations must prove clear, essential information to clinicians and patients about AI outputs. And we'll come back to that a little later. August 2025, FDA finalized the Predetermined Change Control Plan Guidance, PCCP, enables organizations to update deployed AI models post-market without requiring a full resubmission to the FDA, but only if the change falls within a pre-approved protocol. This is significant. It creates a pathway for modeled iteration that is both regulatory and efficient. January 2025, FDA issued the most comprehensive AI draft guidance to date, the total product lifecycle approach for AI-enabled medical devices and that software that functions it. TPLC covers design validation, regulatory submission, deployment, and post-market surveillance. It is the framework that operationalizes everything else. And then February of this year, QMSR, the Quality Management System Regulation, went into effect, replacing 21 CFR Part 820. It harmonizes FDA device quality requirements with ISO 13485-216. Risk-based quality management is now the U.S. standard. Device manufacturers and, by extension, for health system deploying regulated AI. The bottom line here, this is not an emerging regulatory environment. It is an active one, and organizations that are waiting, for guidance to settle before building governance programs are already behind. Next slide, please. Beyond where we are today, there are 3 regulatory developments on the horizon that governance professionals need to be tracking right now. Because by the time they are final, your framework should already be in place. First, generative AI in medical devices. In November 2025, FDA Digital Health Advisory Committee met specifically to address generative AI-enabled medical devices. The second DHAC meeting dedicated to this topic. This is the signal. Foundation models and LLMs embedded in clinical tools will require transparency, reproducibility, and validation standards that go beyond current TPLC expectations. Organizations evaluating generative AI clinical tools should be building governance frameworks before final guidance arrives, not after. Second, cybersecurity. FDA's updated final cybersecurity guidance was issued in June 2025, superseding the 2023 version. The new requirement that matters most for governance, SBMOM security submissions, including lifecycle metadata and VEX files as of March 2026. And for governance professionals, the SBOM raises a privacy question directly. What does the bill of materials disclose about data flows and PHI exposure? That is the privacy team concern, not just the information security concern, which usually is routed to information security, but should be on the forefront of every privacy manager or above mind. Third, CDS, software boundary. FDA issued final clinical decision support guidance in January 2026, clarifying which AI clinical tools are regulated, SAMD, versus exempt non-device CDS under the 21st Century Cures Act. The line is this: software as a clinician relies upon without independently reviewing the basis for regulation. Software that supports but does not supplement clinical judgment may qualify for an exemption. Every clinical AI tool now requires elevation against that boundary. Misclassifying and a regulated SAMD as non-device CDS creates material FDA compliance exposure. The organization building governance infrastructure today will be the ones best positioned when these requirements become final. So let's talk, next slide, please. So we're really talking about the accountability gap. Now I want to talk about something I see consistently in my work. And I think it is the central governance challenge for most organizations right now. I call it the accountability gap. Most organizations know what AI systems they purchased. They know the vendor name. They know the contract terms. They know what's in that BAA. They know the general intended clinical use. They know the implementation date. What they typically do not know is everything that matters from a governance and regulatory standpoint. They do not know which models and algorithm version are actually running in production at that moment. So as that machine continues to evolve and grow and learn in an AI capacity, that what you originally adopted has evolved. Vendor models updates happen often and they're silent. The version deployed in January may not be the version running in June. They do not know which models and algorithm versions they're actually running in production. They do not know what the physician is actually being exposed to in those clinical decision making in that particular moment. In training, data province, representatives, and PII exposure are frequently undocumented. And if they are not documented, they cannot be audited. They do not have performance monitoring in place, no key performance indicators, no drift alerts, no post-deployment benchmarks against which to elevate whether the system is still performing safely, is the question. They do not have a governed process for model updates. Vendor changes happen without organizational review, without clinical impact assessment, without privacy reevaluation. They do not have a named owner. There is no individual or committee with defined accountability for AI oversight across the organization. And they frequently have not accessed the cybersecurity exposure created by third-party AI integrations, expanding the EPHI attack surface. They pull quote on this side says it plainly. Most organizations know what AI they bought. Far fewer know what version is actually running. That gap between what is produced and what is actually operating is where regulatory exposure exists, where it lives. And so let's talk about how to close that gap. Next slide, please. What regulators expect organizations to demonstrate. So what does the FDA actually expect you to be able to demonstrate? The TPLC draft guidance from January 2025 is the most explicit articulation on this matter. Let me walk you through the 6 core expectations. 1, transparency. Model documentation, performance summaries, and transparency artifacts that enable informed clinical use. This is not optional communication. This is governance output with a defined audience, clinicians, patients, and regulators. 2, data integrity. Documented training data sources, representativeness, and bias analysis. And HIPAA obligations apply whenever EPHI is involved in AI workflows. This is not just data science requirement, it is a privacy requirement. 3, performance validation. Safety and effectiveness tied to specific clinical claims supported by real-world data. Lab validation alone is insufficient. FDA expects evidence that the system performs as claimed in the actual clinical environment where it is deployed. 4, bias management. Equity analysis across race, sex, age, and geography. Disparate performance must be identified and addressed before deployment, not discovered post-deployment through adverse outcomes, and the FDA has really emphasized that. 5, human oversight. Clear delineation between AI recommendation and clinical judgment. Confidence scores displayed. Override mechanisms documented. Human in the loop safeguards built into the workflow, not added as an afterthought. 6, change control, PCCP, the predetermined change control plan. enables pre-approved post-market model updates without full resubmission, but it requires traceability. Data, model development, validation activities, and post-market changes documented throughout. Each of these is a governance deliverable. Each one requires a named owner, a documented process of audit-ready and audit-ready evidence. Let's talk about GMLP provides the principled foundation underneath all of this. Next slide, please. GMLP, the Good Machine Learning Practice Guidelines Principle, are the foundations that you're using underpinned in every FDA AI guidance document issued since 2021. Ask yourself that question. 10 principles across 4 pillars. I want to anchor on 3 of the most direct governance implications. Principle 7. Human AI team performance. FDA is not evaluating your model's benchmark score in isolation. It's asking whether the clinician AI team produces safe outcomes together. That distinction matters for how you design oversight, training, and override mechanisms. And principle 9, transparency, clear information to clinicians on patients about AI outputs, not as a courtesy, as a governance deliverable with defined components. And we'll cover what that looks like in practice on the next slide. And principle 10, monitoring and managing deployed models for drift and updates. This is the most, I think, central principle to the organization, which usually is not addressed. And hold it in mind, because it is this gap between a governance program that was built and a governance program that is actually running. Next slide, please. Now let's get practical. What does an operating model for AI governance look like in a regulated healthcare environment? I've structured this as 10 steps on your screen, aligned with FDA, TPLC, GMLP, QMSR, and HIPAA. And let's talk about 3 phases. Step 1 through 3, inventory every AI system in deployment, vendor version, intended use, SAMD classification, and applicable FDA pathway. Assign governance authority, a named AI governance officer or committee drawing from privacy, InfoSec, compliance, clinical, and legal. Then classify each tool against FDA's device framework and the January 2026 CDS boundary. Governance without a named owner is policy thereafter. Classification without CDS boundary creates a check for material compliance exposure. Execution, steps 4 through 7. Privacy impact assessments and BAA coverage for every AI vendor handling EPHI. I know that sounds huge. Data integrity validation, training data audits, representativeness, PHI, de-identification. Performance benchmarks designed before deployment. KPIs, subgroup, equity metrics, drift thresholds, and that one's important. And PCCP and an internal change protocol in place before any model update occur. If you cannot define what performing correctly looks like in your organization, you have no basis for detecting when it stops. And continuous oversight, which all privacy professionals know, steps 8 through 10, deployed with transparency controls, confidence scores, overrides mechanisms, required disclosures. Monitor post-deployment continuously, not quarterly, not annually. And maintain audit readiness at all times. Version logs, PIA documentation, BAA files, and QMSR, a compatible quality management system that is inspected and inspection ready on any given day. 10 steps, all documented, all owned. That is what defensible AI governance looks like. Next slide, please. Data integrity is not a data science problem, it's a governance problem. And when EPHI is involved, it's a legal problem as well. So let me walk you through 4 pillars of data integrity AI governance. First, data quality and representativeness. Training data must reflect the intended patient population across race, sex, age, and geography. FDA's draft TPLC guidance requires documented bias analysis. If your training data is skewed, your model is not a diagnostic tool, and it is not a bias amplifier, this is a patient safety issue, and it is a regulatory compliance issue. Second, PHI governance in AI pipelines. When ePHI is used in modeling training, fine-tuning, or interference, HIPAA obligations apply. Full stop. Business associate agreements, BAAs, must explicitly cover AI vendor data flows. De-identification must be validated. Minimum necessary use analysis must be performed and documented. And third, data provenance and lineage. Governance requires knowing where your data originated, how it's transformed, and whether it remains representative of the current patient population. This is an audit trail. It is a must stand with the FDA inspections, and it is increasingly a regulatory expectation across FDA, NIST, AI risk management framework, and international AI governance frameworks. And fourth, vendor data accountability. Secondary use of patient data, offshore PHI transmission, post-contract data retention. These are governance failures, and they are failures that land with the covered entity, not just the vendor. BAAs must explicitly address AI-specific data flows and post-contract deletion obligations. The governing principle here is simple. Data integrity failures often become privacy failures. Corrupt training data scales bias, not insight. ePHI and AI pipelines are subject to HIPAA. Provenance and lineage are audit requirements, not technical records. And vendor data flows must be governed by contract and BAA. Next slide, please. So looking at transparency. Transparency in AI governance is not communication strategy. It is a structured requirement with 3 distinct audiences, and FDA specifies which each organization should be owning. Patients are entitled to plain language disclosures that AI contributed to the clinical recommendation and notification when AI opt-outs influence their diagnostic or treatment decisions, and clinicians need confidence scores, model limitations, and clear delineation between AI recommendations and leadership needs, models, documentations, accountability mapping, and board-level risk reporting that ties patient safety to compliance posture. None of this is aspirational. Each component requires a named owner, a documented process, and evidence, and transparency is a governance output, not a value statement. Next slide, please. So privacy and cybersecurity. In AI governance, these are not competing priorities. They are parallels that mutually are dependent on each one's obligations. Privacy governance, the law, and the appropriate use of data. Cybersecurity protects systems and data that supports that use, and both are required. On the privacy side, HIPAA security rule is fully in effect and fully applicable to AI pipelines. Audit controls, access management, integrity projections, all of these requirements attach the moment ePHI enters the AI workflow. Health and Human Services, the OCR, issued a proposed rule in January 2025 that would strengthen those requirements further. That proposal is not yet finalized, but organizations should be monitoring it and preparing now, not waiting for the final rule. Privacy impact assessments must explicitly address AI-specific data flows, training data outputs, influence outputs, vendor transmission pathways, and post-contract data retention. And BAAs must go further than standard template language. They need to govern secondary use of patient data, offshore transfer, and model training on client data, with affirmation for the authorization for each. On the cybersecurity side, FDA's updated final cybersecurity guidance from 2025 requires secure by design for AI-enabled SAMD. Mandatory SBOMs, threat modeling, vulnerability management, lifecycle security obligations are a part of the pre-market submissions. And with QMSR effective February 2026, cybersecurity is now a core element of the device quality system under ISO 13485. Secure design is not just a technical requirement, it is a quality management obligation. That means it belongs to the governance framework, not just in engineering. Next slide, please. Let's talk about governance, because this is where I see more of the most significant unmanaged exposure in healthcare organizations today. Many AI vendors qualify as business associates under HIPAA, but when they create, receive, maintain, or transmit EPHR on behalf of the covered entity, their breach, their unauthorized data use, or their unauthorized model changes becomes your regulatory and liability exposure. The regulatory risk does not stay with the vendor, it travels to you. BAAs and vendor contracts must address model change notification. They must set up data retention limits. They must include offshore transfer restriction. And they must include security incident responses, SLAs, not just general breach notification language. Vendor risk assessment should evaluate SOC 2, Type 2, high trust CSF, and where applicable, FDA SMND compliance documentation and PCCP status. You need to know whether your AI vendor has changed the control plan and whether you're in it. And third-party AI integrations expand the identity, API and EPHI exfiltration risk surface. Every new AI integration is a new attack vector. That is not an argument against AI adoption. It is an argument for active monitoring and standard governance practice. On incident response, AI failures are not always breach signature events. A drifting or a hallucinating clinical AI may not trigger a traditional security alert, and you need to be aware of that. That means you need to define in writing before an incident occurs what constitutes an AI incident in your organization. Clinical safety events triggered by AI must be documented and evaluated for FDA post-market surveillance reporting obligations. And the response control must be joint. Privacy, InfoSec, legal, and clinical quality working from a single shared SOP. Siloed responses and governance, they fail. Audit logs for AI-influenced clinical decisions must be preserved. For HIPAA compliance reviews, FDA inspections, and clinical and litigation readiness for those clinicians that are not aware of how their AI-enabled devices are used. That one is critical for litigation readiness. If you do not have the logs, you cannot defend against any decisions. Next slide, please. So let's talk about the risk that no one sees coming. I want to talk about the category that, in my experience, is the one organizations are least prepared for. Not the initial deployment failure, not the data breach that I know you're thinking about. The thing that happens 18 months after deployment, quietly, without triggering any alarm system, model drift. Here's what model drift is. AI performance degrades as real-world data distributions shift, patient populations change, clinical coding practices evolve. The statistical relationships our models were trained are no longer holding the current environment. The model was valid at launch, it may not be valid today. And in many organizations, no one has checked. FDA's TPLC guidance requires ongoing monitoring for exactly this reason. Governance must be able to detect drift before it causes patient harm or creates regulatory exposure. That means establish KPIs, defined thresholds, documented drift detection, and revalidation triggers. And all of it is documented for FDA post-market surveillance and QMSR. And as models drift, data risk profiles change. The privacy exposure of a deployed model is not static. Governance must track evolving privacy risk across the model's lifetime, not just at deployment. On the change management side, PCCP, the Predetermined Change Control Plan, creates a pathway for pre-approved updates without full resubmission, but it requires organizations to track changes, assess clinical impact, and document PCCP compliance for every update. BAAs must require advance written notice of all model changes. A silent algorithmic update is a governance failure. And depending on the clinical impact, it may be a patient safety event as well. Every material model change requires a governance checkpoint, clinical impact assessment, privacy risk evaluation, cybersecurity review, and QMSR documentation update. The pull quote on this slide says it exactly as I want you to remember it. The greatest risk is not the model you deploy, it's the model you stop paying attention to. I think you should write that down. Next slide, please. So what does defensible AI governance actually look like in practice? I'm so glad you asked. I want to give you 3 categories: pre-deployment, ongoing monitoring, and governance structure, because all 3 are required. You cannot have one without the other 2. So let's talk about pre-deployment. AI system inventory, vendor version, intended use, FDA pathway, privacy impact assessment completed before go live. Underline that part, before go live, with BAA executed for every AI data flow, security risk assessment performed and bias analysis documented, clinical validation evidence and model documentation on file, readily accessible. And if the system is FDA regulated, SAMD, PCCP determined and documented before deployment, not after, you are winning. Ongoing monitoring, performance KPIs established with defined drift thresholds, audit log of AI outputs influencing clinical decisions, drift detection alerts, active and revalidation schedule documented, model version log maintained. I think you should underline that too. Make sure that your model version log is maintained and readily accessible by your privacy personnel. Vendor change notification. So SLA is in effect contractually. And post-market surveillance mechanisms active and documented. Governance structure, an AI governance committee with representation from clinical, privacy, InfoSec, legal, and compliance. And a lot of times they say, well, we have a privacy person, you also need a compliance person. A named AI governance officer with defined authority and escalation path. AI policy approved, published, and trained across the organization. Incident response SOP in place. You need it in place. Board level AI risk reporting on meeting cadence and QMSR compatible quality management system with annual review scheduled. The pull quote on this slide is the principle that ties all of this together. Governance that isn't documented is governance that did not happen. We all know the saying, if it's not documented, it didn't happen. That truly applies here. In the QMSR inspection, in an FDA post-market surveillance review, in a HIPAA audit, what you can demonstrate on paper is what counts. Intention without documentation is not a compliance posture. Next slide, please. So I want to kind of walk through a case study in governance practice. I want to talk through a composite scenario that reflects patterns I see in real governance investigations to illustrate what governance failures actually look like in practice and what corrective action looks like. So here's the scenario. A large health system deploys an AI-enabled clinical decision support tool, a regulated software medical device, SAMD, that influences medication dosing across multiple site operations. 18 months after deployment, the vendor silently pushes a model update. No governance review occurs. No one is notified. 3 months later, clinical quality staff identify dosing abnormalities and trace them back to the model update. There is no PCCP. There is no audit log. There is no named AI governance owner. The governance infrastructure to catch this event simply does not exist. So let's count the governance failures. No PCCP and no internal change review protocol for vendor model updates. No AI system inventory tracking versions in production. No performance KPIs or drift detection alerts establishing any kind of deployment activity. No privacy impact reassessment when the model update altered data processing. No AI incident response. Clinical quality caught the problem, not governance. The vendor update altered downstream data use without triggering a privacy review. The BAA was silent on model change notification, and there is no named AI governance officer. Accountability was diffused and therefore not existent. How many did you count? 8 governance failures, each one individually addressable. Together, they created a patient safety event and a regulatory exposure that the organization now has to explain. The corrective actions: BAA amended to require advanced written notice and clinical impact review for all model changes. AI system inventory built with vendor, version, clinical scope, and PCCP status. Performance monitoring deployed with drift thresholds and automated alert triggers. Privacy impact assessment added as a step in the AI change management workflow. Joint privacy, InfoSec, and clinical quality AI incident response SOP created. AI governance committee formed with quarterly board risk reporting, and a named AI governance officer designated with defined escalation authority. Notice that every corrective action is structural, not training, not awareness, structural. Next slide, please. Thank you. So let's look at our key takeaways. 7 takeaways I want you to remember. Write down 7 principles. I want to give you something you can carry out of this session and actually put to work in real terms. 1, FDA expectations are active, they're not pending. GMLP from 2021, PCCP final guidance from August 2025, TPLC draft guidance from January 2025, QMSR in effect as of February 2nd of this year, 2026. Governance cannot wait for the next guidance document. 2, the governance gap is a regulatory liability. Most organizations know what they bought, but remember, they do not know what model or version is actually running, who owns oversight, or whether performance has drifted. That gap has a regulatory address. 3, data integrity is a HIPAA obligation. When EPHI is in an AI pipeline, HIPAA applies. BAAs must cover AI-specific data flows. Provenance and minimum necessary are required. They are not optional. And 4, transparency is structured, not incidental. FDA guidance specifies what transparency looks like for patients, clinicians, and regulators. It is a governance output with defined components. It is not optional communication. Let's look at 5. Model drift requires active management. Post-deployment degradation can cause patient harm before anyone notices. GMLP Principle 10 and TPLC require continuous monitoring, not just initial validation. 6, privacy is the connective tissue. Privacy is embedded in every governance pillar, data integrity, transparency, vendor management, life cycle management, and audit. Separated out and governance is incomplete. And 7, audit readiness is a continuous state, not a point in time exercise. QMSR inspections, FDA post-market surveillance, and HIPAA audits now reach into AI systems. Documentation is not a compliance task you complete. It is a compliance posture that you must maintain. So in closing, next slide, please. The FDA AI era is not coming. It is here. The organizations that build governance infrastructure now, that inventory their systems, assign ownership, define performance benchmarks, and document their work, they are the ones that are able to demonstrate compliance when regulators ask. I just want to leave you with one final thought. If there's time, or if the audience members ask what's coming, here are 5 regulatory deployment organizations should be watching, and I'm just going to give those to you briefly. Generative AI governance. FDA is signaling forthcoming guidance on LLMs and generative AI in clinical context. Existing TPLC and transparency principles will extend, and organizations should assume that they build it according to those guidelines. Second, real-world performance monitoring. Post-market surveillance requirements are expanding under QMSR and TPLC. One-time validation is not sufficient. Keep that in mind. Continuous performance evidence is the direction that they're headed. That's where we're traveling. And third, human factors engineering. FDA guidance increasingly requiring demonstrable evidence that clinician AI interfaces are designed to support safe human decision making, not just documentation that clinicians are intended to use. Fourth, I want you to keep in mind adaptive AI oversight. Continuous learning systems requiring evolving governance frameworks. PCCP addresses part of this, but the broader standards for adaptive AI are still emerging. Organizations with adaptive systems should be building governance that can flex with the model. So as the model evolves, so should your governance. And fifth, foundation model transparency. Disclosure obligations for underlying model architect training data and bias testing are increasingly expected by regulators and payers. Organizations deploying third-party foundation models should be asking their vendors for this documentation right now. And I'm happy to take any of your questions. I would encourage someone to look at the IAPP. There are several certifications and learning modules that organization puts out. The Association of Information Privacy Professionals will give you several learning modules, but the certifications that immediately come to mind would be, there is a certification for AI governance, but I know that EC Council is also putting out they also have a certification for AI governance. And even though EC Council has typically dealt with more security and cybersecurity certifications, their AI governance certification is something that I think you should look into. But any certification programs that are produced by Information Privacy Professional Organization, AIPP, is definitely something that you should look into, not just from an AI perspective, but an overall privacy certification. I think the most effective way to do that is when you're working, usually when you're working with your vendor and you're telling them what it is that you are most concerned about. AI embedded medical devices are learning tools. They're learning actually how your organization wants it to work. So if you're looking for stopgaps, my recommendation would be when you're researching your AI platforms and models that you're emphasizing to the vendor that you're looking for specific stopgaps, you're looking for strategic streamlines that actually identify and then work to create the AI model that actually is going to do those pullouts for you as it is learning your organization. So throughout this talk, I discussed the different frameworks that are being implemented throughout the United States now. So the FDA has used several of other countries to build its overall framework. You can look at Canada Health. There is several things that have come out. The 2026 CDS has a lot of information there. Once this is shared, you'll be able to see all of the different frameworks and be able to walk through those with your organization. But throughout this talk, that has been identified. Well, I think that question is a little bit beyond my scope, whether or not you can trust it. The reason that I encourage people to really work with the vendors. So here is a recommendation. As you are deciding on what it is that you want or need with your AI support, I would recommend that you create a matrix. You get everyone that's clinical, that's legal, HR, that privacy certainly should be in the room, as well as compliance, information security, and cybersecurity, because they do have different functions. I would suggest you get all of those people in the room, create a task force, and literally list out in a matrix everything that you want AI to do. There are so many AI application tools that are promising to do so many different things. Being able to specifically identify what you want, what you need, and how you want it to react to those needs. Clearly identifying that will help you scale down in your vendors. It will also be able to assist you when you're working with vendors or when you're evaluating vendors, being able to speak in specificity as to what you need. Whether or not it becomes like the World Wide Web is a little bit beyond my scope, and whether or not you can trust it, well, that question is what we are all talking about now. We are talking about whether or not you can trust AI. And towards the end of my talk, I talked about how you have model drift. Model drift is when the AI application in its learning capacity changes, it evolves, and it moves beyond the original intended purpose. In order for you to scope that and know that, you have to constantly be monitoring that. So whether or not you can trust it is going to depend on your organization, how you are governing that AI model or that AI application. And I would encourage all organizations to actually get a governance officer. That person, in my mind, if you're looking at a tree or you're looking at an org chart, perhaps that officer should report to your chief compliance or privacy officer, if that's not the same one in the same, so that there's line of sight, but that officer is reporting up to someone who has board reporting responsibilities, should I say. An AI governance officer is one way to actually make sure that that is being constantly monitored and should build some trust within the organization as you are adopting AI applications. Well, throughout this conversation today, I've talked about how the FDA is expecting you to behave in your organization. And so I listed out all of the ways that I believe that are important for you to stay audit ready. So as they're monitoring AI or software medical devices, they're actually looking to you to make sure that you are reporting. It's the same way that in HIPAA, you report to the Office of Civil Rights. You should also be reporting any abnormalities. You should be reporting that out to the FDA. You should also keep a log in the same way that we do for OCR readiness. You should also be keeping a log. So either that's with, if you're using OneTrust, or if you're using NavX through Ethics Point, you should be listing and logging that information. Should there be a breach of a medical device, the FDA does have a means and mechanism to look at where those medical devices have been purchased. So they will have your organization's information, and then it operates very similarly to how the OCR operates. And you may just get a letter asking you certain questions based on that breach or based on any software abnormalities that you'll have to answer, or like the OCR, they could show up. So I mentioned in this talk that you should be logging those situations. So under any circumstances in which AI is making mistakes, you should be logging that. You should be having regular conversations with your vendor. And the only way for you to do that, so again, I'm going to emphasize an AI officer. The way that you are continuously monitoring that is how you make those determinations about mistakes. And you're able to get in front of those mistakes and work with the vendor to cure because of the consistent or constant monitoring. Well, I think I've pretty much covered those things that I think are most important for organizations, but I would like to say you can find me on LinkedIn. If some questions come to mind later, please feel free to inbox me and I will do my best to try to answer those.